The coffee spread across his chest in slow motion. Dark, hot, expensive. Lila Hayes watched the stain bloom across what had to be $1,000 suit and knew, with absolute certainty, that her terrible day had just gotten worse. "I'm so sorry," she gasped, reaching for napkins that weren't there. "I'm so sorry." The man looked down at his ruined shirt, then up at her. Dark eyes, sharp jaw, the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers. Mid-30s, dangerously handsome, and currently dripping with her medium roast. "It's fine." His voice was low, controlled. "It's not fine." Lila's hands shook as she grabbed paper napkins from a nearby table, pressing them uselessly against his chest. "That suit probably costs more than my car." Her sleeve rode up as she reached. For one terrible second, the bruises were visible, purple-yellow fingerprints circling her wrist like a bracelet. His hand caught hers, gentle but firm. Those dark eyes locked on the marks. "How did you get those?" Lila yanked her arm back, tugging the sleeve down. "I'm clumsy. Look, I'll pay for dry cleaning." "You didn't answer my question. And I don't have to." She stepped back, heart hammering. "I said I'm sorry. Excuse me." She fled before he could press further. 18 hours earlier, Lila stared at the eviction notice taped to her apartment door, the words blurring through exhausted tears. Final notice. Vacate within 72 hours. She'd been expecting it. Didn't make it easier. 27 years old, working 2 jobs, morning shift at Morrison's Cafe, nights cleaning office buildings, and still $1,200 short on rent. Again, the bruises on her wrist throbbed. The ones on her ribs, hidden under her Morrison's uniform, hurt worse. Her phone buzzed. "Text from Marcus. We need to talk. Tonight." Lila deleted it. They'd talked enough. 3 years of Marcus Webb's talking. His apologies, his promises, his hands that turned gentle after they'd been cruel. She'd finally left 2 months ago, crashing on her co-worker Jennifer's couch until she'd scraped together enough for this studio apartment in Queens. Apparently, leaving wasn't enough. Marcus had found her last week. Showed up at Morrison's, all flowers and desperation. When she'd refused to talk, he'd waited by her car. The argument had ended with his fingers around her wrist and his voice in her ear. "You don't just walk away from me, Lila. We're not done." The bruises had bloomed overnight. She filed a police report. The officer had been kind but clear. Without witnesses or immediate danger, there wasn't much they could do. Get a restraining order, he'd suggested. Those took time and money she didn't have. Now she had 72 hours to find a new place. With bad credit, no savings, and bruises she couldn't explain to landlords. Lila unlocked her door, stepped into the studio that had briefly felt like safety, and let herself cry. The next morning, Morrison's Cafe sat in Midtown, wedged between a bank and a boutique law firm. Lila arrived at 5:47 a.m. for the 6 o'clock opening shift, tying her apron with practiced efficiency despite the ache in her wrists. "You okay?" Jennifer asked, manning the espresso machine. "You look exhausted." "Eviction notice." Lila forced a smile. "Living the dream." "Jesus, Lila. You can crash with me again. You have a studio. I can't keep them posing." Lila grabbed the coffee pot. "I'll figure it out." The morning rush hit at 7:15. Lawyers, bankers, executives, all needing caffeine before their important meetings. Lila poured and smiled and took orders, her body running on autopilot while her mind spiraled through impossible math. At 8:33, he walked in. Tall, dark suit that screamed wealth, an air of command that parted the crowd. He ordered a black coffee, paid with a platinum card, and sat by the window with his phone. Lila wouldn't have noticed him except Jennifer whispered, "That's Julian Hale, CEO of Hale Industries. Worth like $3 billion. Good for him," Lila muttered, refilling the pastry case. At 8:47, her phone buzzed. "Marcus again. I'm outside your apartment. We're talking today whether you like it or not." Her hands started shaking. At 8:51, she was refilling coffee for table 6, a regular who barely looked up from his laptop, when her phone buzzed again. She glanced down instinctively. "Marcus, you can't hide from me." The coffee pot tilted. Hot liquid splashed across her hand. She jerked backward, stumbled, and the entire pot went flying, directly onto Julian Hale's chest. The cafe went silent. Lila stared at the spreading stain, at $3 billion worth of man dripping with Morrison's house blend, and wanted the floor to swallow her. I'm so sorry, she gasped, reaching for napkins that weren't there. I'm so sorry. He looked remarkably calm for someone who'd just been assaulted by coffee. It's fine. It's not fine. Her voice cracked as she grabbed napkins, dabbing uselessly at his ruined shirt. That suit probably costs more than my car. She reached higher, sleeve riding up, and froze. His hand caught hers, gentle, not grabbing, and his eyes dropped to her exposed wrist, to the fingerprint bruises Marcus had left. How did you get those? The question was quiet but steel-edged. Lila yanked free, pulling her sleeve down with shaking hands. I'm clumsy. Look, I'll pay for dry cleaning. You didn't answer my question. And I don't have to. She stepped back, Morrison's firing her on the spot, already playing in her head. I said I'm sorry. Excuse me. She turned and walked straight to the bathroom, locking herself in, breathing hard against the door. Through the wood, she heard Jennifer. Sir, I apologize for the accident. We'll cover all cleaning costs. That won't be necessary. His voice carried clearly. But I'd like to speak with your manager. Lila closed her eyes. Perfect. She was definitely fired now. Lila stayed in the bathroom for 6 minutes, composing herself with cold water and paper towels. When she emerged, Julian Hale was gone. Morrison, the cafe owner, stood by the register with Jennifer, both looking at her strangely. Lila, a word? Morrison gestured to the back office. This was it. Fired for assaulting a billionaire customer. She followed him, already calculating how long her last paycheck would last. Morrison closed the door and handed her an envelope. That gentleman left this. Said it's for the coffee incident. Lila opened it. Inside was a business card, Julian Hale, CEO, Hale Industries, and $500 bills. I can't accept this. Her voice came out hoarse. He insisted. Said he startled you by asking personal questions. Morrison studied her face. Those bruises on your wrist. That why you've been jumpy lately? Lila's throat closed. She nodded. You need help? You tell me. Understand. Morrison's gruff exterior cracked slightly. Now get back to work. She worked the rest of her shift in a daze, the envelope burning in her apron pocket. $2,500. Enough for first month and security deposit on a new place. Maybe enough to actually get that restraining order filed. At 2 p.m., her shift ended. Jennifer grabbed her arm as she headed out. That billionaire? He asked about you. Wanted to know your name, if you were okay. I didn't tell him anything. But Lila, he seemed genuinely concerned. He's a stranger who got coffee on his suit. That's all. But she kept the card. At 6 p.m., Lila arrived at her evening job, cleaning offices in the Hale Industries building. The irony wasn't lost on her. She badged in through the service entrance, joined the cleaning crew, and tried not to think about Julian Hale working somewhere above her in this 40-story monument to success. At 9:30 p.m., she was vacuuming the executive floor when someone cleared their throat behind her. She turned. Julian Hale stood in his office doorway, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. He'd changed shirts. Ms. Hayes. Not a question. Lila's stomach dropped. How do you know my name? Your name tag. This morning. He gestured to his office. Could we talk? I'm working. 5 minutes. Please. Something in his voice, not commanding, almost gentle, made her turn off the vacuum and follow him inside. The office was all glass and steel, the city glittering below. Julian closed the door and leaned against his desk, maintaining careful distance. I'm going to be direct, he said. Those bruises are from someone hurting you. The way you reacted when I asked, that's fear, not clumsiness. Lila's hands clenched. With respect, Mr. Hale, my personal life isn't your concern. You're right. It's not. He pulled out his phone, tapped something, and showed her the screen. But I had my security team review Morrison's exterior cameras. This man waited outside for an hour yesterday morning. Followed you to your car. Put his hands on you. The video showed Marcus, clear as day, grabbing her wrist in the parking lot. That's... Lila's voice failed. Assault, Julian finished quietly. Have you filed a police report? Yes. They said without immediate danger, there's not much they can do. And you're being evicted. At her shocked expression, he added, you mentioned it to your coworker. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I heard. Lila sat down heavily in one of his guest chairs. What do you care? You don't know me. Julian was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried something raw. My mother spent 10 years with a man who hurt her. She'd hide bruises under long sleeves, make excuses, believe his apologies. I was 14 when she finally left, and by then the damage was done. Chronic pain, PTSD, years of rebuilding. He met Lila's eyes. I swore if I ever saw someone in that situation, I wouldn't look away. Lila felt tears prick her eyes. I left him 2 months ago. I did everything right. Filed reports, moved, changed my number. He found me anyway. Then we make sure he can't find you again. Julian's voice turned businesslike. Hale Industries has a corporate apartment program for relocated executives. There's a vacancy on the Upper West Side. 2 bedrooms, doorman building, top-tier security. You need housing immediately. I can have you moved in tomorrow. I can't afford. It's provided through the company's employee assistance program. I'm not your employee. I work for the cleaning contractor. Then consider it part of my apology for being intrusive this morning. His expression softened. Ms. Hayes, Lila, I'm offering resources. No strings, no expectations. Just a safe place and breathing room to figure things out. Lila stared at him. At this impossible offer from an impossible man. Why? Because I can help and you need help, and that should be enough. He straightened. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., my assistant will meet you with keys and moving assistance. Say yes. Every instinct screamed that this was too good, too easy, that men who offered help always wanted something. But Julian Hale's eyes held nothing predatory. Just steady certainty and something that looked like old pain recognizing itself. Yes, Lila whispered. Relief crossed his face. Good. I'll also connect you with a lawyer who specializes in restraining orders. Pro bono through the company's legal aid program. Mr. Hale, Julian. Julian, thank you. He nodded. Finish your shift. Tomorrow's a better day. Lila returned to her vacuum with shaking hands, hope unfurling tentatively in her chest. Behind her, through the glass office wall, Julian Hale sat at his desk and made phone calls that would change everything. At 11 p.m., her phone buzzed. Marcus, find your new place. Nice try. Her blood froze. Then another text from an unknown number. Security is aware. You won't get past the lobby. You're safe. J.H. Howdy. The cameras. Julian must have tracked Marcus from this morning's footage. Lila looked up at the executive floor, at the single office still lit. Through the window, Julian raised his phone briefly, acknowledgement. She'd been alone so long. Now, suddenly, someone was watching her back. The apartment was nothing like Lila's studio. Hardwood floors, granite counters, windows overlooking Central Park. The doorman had greeted her by name. The locks were commercial grade. And Julian's assistant, a competent woman named Patricia, had handed her keys like this was perfectly normal. Mr. Hale wanted me to ensure you're settled, Patricia said, placing grocery bags on the counter. Basics to start. The building has 24-hour security. I've briefed them on your situation. No one gets up without your explicit approval. Lila stood in the middle of the living room, overwhelmed. This is too much. Mr. Hale disagrees. Patricia smiled. The lawyer, Margaret Shun, will call you this afternoon about the restraining order. She's excellent. After Patricia left, Lila walked through the apartment, touching surfaces that didn't feel real. A bedroom for her. A second bedroom she didn't need. A bathroom with a soaking tub. Safety, wrapped in luxury she hadn't earned. Her phone rang. Julian's name on the screen. Hello. You're settled? His voice was warm. Yes. Julian, this apartment probably rents for $5,000 a month. For $1,000. And it's sitting vacant otherwise. A pause. How do you feel? Safe, Lila admitted. Scared that this is temporary. Guilty for needing help. Nothing temporary about it. Lease is yours as long as you want it. His voice dropped. And Lila? Needing help isn't weakness. Taking it is strength. That afternoon, Margaret Chin called. Sharp, efficient, compassionate. She'd already filed emergency restraining order paperwork using the video evidence. Court date in 3 days. With the footage, we'll get the permanent order. 3 days later, Lila sat in family court with Margaret beside her and Julian in the back row. He'd asked permission to attend for moral support. Marcus was there with a cheap lawyer, his face flushed with anger. The judge reviewed the video evidence, the police reports, the hospital photos Lila had finally pulled from her phone. Photos she'd taken after the worst night, 2 weeks before she'd left. Mr. Webb, the judge said coldly, you're to have no contact with Ms. Hayes. No calls, texts, physical proximity, or third-party communication. Violation means immediate arrest. Do you understand? Marcus's jaw clenched. Yes. This order is permanent. Dismissed. Outside the courthouse, Lila breathed autumn air that tasted like freedom. Congratulations, Margaret said warmly. He violates this, he goes to jail. You're protected now. Julian waited by his car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than Lila would make in 5 years. Can I buy you lunch? Celebratory coffee. Lila laughed. I think I owe you coffee, considering our first meeting. They went to a small bistro in Soho. No cameras, no staff recognizing him, just 2 people sharing a meal. Julian asked about her life before Marcus. Lila told him about her journalism degree from CUNY, the editorial dreams she'd shelved for rent money, the writing she did in stolen moments between jobs. Send me your work, Julian said. Hale Industries owns 3 media publications. Always looking for strong writers. I don't want charity. It's not charity if you're talented. He met her eyes across the table. I've helped with housing and legal support because you were in danger. But if you can write, that's about business, not kindness. Lila sent him clips that night. 2 days later, Patricia called with a job offer. Staff writer for Hale Media's investigative journalism division. $55,000 salary, full benefits, start immediately. I need to quit both my jobs, Lila told Julian when she called to accept. Give Morrison 2 weeks' notice. I already spoke with Morrison. He's happy for you. And the cleaning company received a generous contract extension as thanks for employing someone who made my company better. You can't just fix everything. Watch me. But his voice was gentle, almost amused. Over the following months, Lila discovered Julian Hale was relentlessly, stubbornly good. He checked in, never intrusive, always respectful. Asked about her articles, celebrated her bylines, gave feedback that made her work sharper. They fell into easy friendship. Lunches, museum visits, long conversations about everything and nothing. He never pushed for more. Never leveraged his help into expectation, which made Lila falling for him both inevitable and terrifying. 6 months after the coffee incident, she published a major investigative piece exposing wage theft in service industries. It went viral, won awards, got picked up nationally. Julian took her to dinner at an absurdly expensive restaurant to celebrate. You did this yourself, he said, raising his glass. Your talent, your work. I just opened a door. You did more than that. Lila's voice caught. You gave me my life back. You took your life back. I provided resources. His dark eyes held hers. There's a difference. Julian. She took a breath. That first day, you saw Bruises and decided to care. You didn't know me. I could have been anyone. Why did you really help? He was quiet, choosing words carefully. Because I've seen what it looks like when someone's drowning and too proud to yell for help. Because my mother deserved better and you deserve better, and I finally had the power to actually do something. He reached across the table, palm up, offering. And because from the moment you apologized for spilling coffee while clearly terrified, I saw someone extraordinary trying to survive in impossible circumstances. I wanted to know who you'd be when you weren't just surviving. Lila placed her hand in his. And you're remarkable. His thumb brushed her knuckles, over where the bruises had been, now long faded. Smart, resilient, talented, kind despite every reason not to be. You're exactly who I hoped you were. I'm falling for you, Lila whispered. Have been for months. But you're my boss, my landlord, the person who saved me. I'm the man who saw you first at your lowest and now gets to see you thriving. Who's been waiting very patiently for you to feel safe enough to choose, not need. He stood, still holding her hand, and came around the table to kneel beside her chair. Lila Hayes, I'm asking if you'd consider dating me, not as your boss or landlord or rescuer, as someone who thinks you're extraordinary and would very much like to kiss you. Lila laughed through sudden tears. That's the most formal proposition I've ever heard. I'm a billionaire CEO. We do everything formally. But he was smiling. She cupped his face, this impossible man who'd seen bruises and offered safety, who'd given without taking, who'd waited while she healed. Yes, she said simply. He kissed her then, soft, careful, perfect. 1 year later, Lila stood in Julian's office, their office, technically, since she'd been promoted to editorial director, and watched the city glitter below. The apartment was hers, permanently. The job was hers, earned. Julian was hers, chosen freely. You're thinking loud, Julian said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Thinking how much changes in 18 months. From eviction notices to this. You were always headed here. Just needed the obstacles removed. He kissed her temple. Proud of you. Lila turned in his arms. This man who'd seen her broken and stayed while she rebuilt. Thank you for not looking away. Thank you for letting me help. For trusting me. His voice dropped. For choosing me. Every day, Lila promised. Outside, New York rushed on. Millions of stories, millions of struggles. But here, 40 stories above it all, they'd built something real from spilled coffee and bruises and one man's decision that looking away wasn't acceptable. Safe. Loved. Pull. Finally, blessedly free.